Once we started talking to Nawang, he solved all the hurdles that we were facing. So he took care of all the accommodation needs. But we did have a say on the hotels and everything. We asked for pictures of the rooms that we'll be staying at or the hotels that we will be staying at, and he was kind enough to share pictures of everything, and we are so grateful for that. So the thing about Bhutan is when you hire a car in Bhutan, you will get a package which includes the driver and a guide as well. So that is a whole package that you get when you hire a car. So the day before we flew to Bhutan, Nawang messaged us that his friend Tashi would be our driver for the trip, and we'll have a guide also whom Nawang knew personally because they were together in a training called, I think, Disang training that they do in Bhutan. It's a bit of a army training. So they were there together, and so Thukten would be our guide. So now I'll give you a brief overview of the hotels and accommodation that we stayed at in Bhutan, which were all suggested by Nawang, but we definitely had a say in the kind of rooms that we wanted over here. Starting from Thimphu, we stayed at the Jambayang Resort, which is a little further away from the city. It is a very peaceful resort, and most importantly, it has some stunning views of the surrounding hills of Thimphu. After seeing the pictures, we basically asked Nawang to book us the deluxe room at Jambayang Resort. And much to our surprise, we were actually upgraded to the suite room of Jambayang Resort, and trust me, the view was just mind-blowing from there. So there was this balcony where overlooking the hills, and well, early in the morning, if you get up and go to the balcony, you can actually see clouds floating there. So it was such a beautiful view from there, and that really that was a perfect start to our Bhutan trip, and we couldn't thank Nawang enough for this. Book this only if you have a car at your disposal at all times, because it's not a walking distance from the city. And if you want to stay in the hustle and bustle of the Thimphu city, then definitely do not book this one. Definitely you can stay in the city. The next place that we went to was Punakha, and in Punakha, like I mentioned, we stayed at a homestay, but that too a very popular homestay in Punakha called the Chimi Lakhang Homestay. So it's named after the Chimi Lakhang temple. While we were, when we entered Punakha, we thought that we'll visit the temple first and then go to check into the homestay. So while going to the temple, we actually crossed this homestay, and at first glance, we actually were not very impressed with it. It looked very simple. Our guide Thukten was a bit worried that we might not like it. However, when we came back, after visiting the temple, and when we entered the homestay, so what we saw on our way to the temple was actually the back of the homestay, and that's where you enter from, because according to Feng Shui, I think it had been set up that way that everyone enters from the back. So basically what we saw was just the back of the house, and when we entered and we saw the front and the house itself, it was such a beautiful homestay. The rooms are basically in the first floor. So there is this traditional Bhutanese ladder which you have to climb to reach there. That is quite an experience in itself because it's quite steep. So I don't know if they offer rooms in the ground floor, which you can ask if you have any mobility issues. You can definitely ask your tour agent or the homestay itself whether they offer that. But we stayed at the first floor, and another point to note is that in homestays in Bhutan, the bathroom is outside your room. It's not an adjoining bathroom that you have. So it's just something to keep in mind, before you go to the homestay, just so it's not a shocker for you. So when we went, we were the only guests over there. So luckily we had the bathroom all to ourselves, and but yeah, the inside of the room was so beautiful, and the host was so beautiful in that homestay, and I'll definitely talk more about it in the Punakha vlog. So moving on, the next place that we visited was Haa, and we drove there from Punakha via Thimphu. So that took us quite a long time, around 8 hours, and the roads were not that great. So we reached Haa quite late in the evening. But again, we were staying at a homestay here, and unlike Punakha, this homestay was much larger. It was called the Ugyen's Farmhouse. It is one of the most popular ones over there, and it is much larger, so it gets a little bit crowded also. So the thing was, in Punakha, maybe because we were the only guests over there, the service and everything was very personalized, but here there were many guests who checked into Haa, and apparently it's a good place if you want to trek the surrounding hills. So there were quite a few trekkers staying there. So yeah, it was a bit crowded, the homestay. But anyway, it was just for a night, and we had overall we had a good experience. So again in Paro, we stayed at a hotel, more of a resort, which again was a little further away from the city, but it was close to the Tiger's Nest Monastery, which we climbed on our trip here. So it was called the Raven's Nest. So again, like Thimphu, we asked Nawang to give us a deluxe room over here, but he somehow worked his magic, and we were again upgraded to a suite at Raven's Nest. It was huge. The room was huge. I didn't know. I've never stayed in such a huge room, and I didn't know what to do with it, but it was huge and so comfortable. Definitely it did not have a view like Thimphu, but it was so comfortable to stay here. More about that definitely in our Paro vlog. So we went there for a week, and a little tip for people traveling from Kolkata: you can actually go to Bhutan in the season of September or October, when you get the Durga Puja vacations, because the weather at that time is just beautiful. It's cold but not very cold, and it's a very pleasant temperature to be at, and so you can actually utilize your Durga Puja vacations to go here. But ideally you would, for people who work full time, 1 week is what you should be looking at for making the effort to go to reach here. But if you can give more time, the more the better, definitely. So let me share an overview of our itinerary that we followed for our trip to Bhutan. So we flew from Kolkata to Paro. It was an 8 a.m. flight, very convenient, and then drove to Thimphu and then did some sightseeing in Thimphu. In day 2, again we did some more sightseeing in Thimphu, and then day 3 we traveled from Thimphu to Punakha and did some sightseeing in Punakha, and then day 4 we traveled from Punakha to Haa via Thimphu. There is no direct route from Punakha to Haa, you will have to go via Thimphu. Day 5 we did some Haa sightseeing, and then we again traveled from Haa to Paro, and then day 6 we did the hike to the Paro Taksang, or more popularly known as the Tiger's Nest Monastery, and then day 7 we flew back to Kolkata from Paro. It was a super tight, super hectic itinerary. So if you can spare, 2-3 days, you can have a more relaxed. You can do it at a more relaxed pace. But this is basically, if you follow this, you're going to cover the highlights of Bhutan, of Western Bhutan rather, because there is a whole eastern side of Bhutan which is even more hidden, and we hope to do it someday, but these are the highlights of Western Bhutan. So now moving on, lastly, the last topic that I'll cover in this vlog is the cost. So the approximate cost of our trip in 2019 was approximately 1,75,000 rupees for 2 persons. To give you a breakdown, we spent around 1,25,000 for flights, accommodations with breakfast, permits and car at our disposal with driver and guide, and other meals, shopping, and entry fees which are not included in your tour package costed us an additional 50,000 rupees. So now there's a little bit of catch now to travel to Bhutan. So basically, when we had traveled in 2019, we did not have to pay the sustainable development fee. Now recently Bhutan has introduced a sustainable development fee for Indians traveling to Bhutan. Currently it is 1,200 rupees per person per night. And I think there's a bit of a discount for children. So you can have a look at the relevant government websites to exactly know what is the fee whenever you are traveling. So that makes it a little bit more expensive than what we did in 2019. However, trust me, if you do this trip, you're going to be mind blown with the landscape of Bhutan, the people and the culture, and also the food. So it is definitely a little bit costlier now, but you should definitely make a trip here, because it is a country which you will not experience anywhere else if you go. But this was for Indians. Now people from any other country always had to pay a sustainable development fee, and they still do. I think it is around $200 per day per person. So you can actually ask your tour operator, or you can do a search on the government websites to see what the fee is at the point where you're traveling. Well, if you liked this vlog, if you found this useful, then definitely like, share, comment and subscribe to our channel. And I also have an active Instagram page with real-time update of all my travels and my food experiences. So definitely go and follow that and stay connected. I'd love to hear from you, so definitely comment here or on my Instagram, and let's get in touch.